What's going on, people? Welcome back to Funheads.
Hello, and welcome back to Funnelheads, and this is day 2 of Dover. Now, this should have been our last day in Dover with, going on the Carnival Pride the following day, but of course, our cruise got canceled, and then later on, we had a revised itinerary, which worked out, but we didn't let that stop us from exploring the rest of Dover and having an overall great day. We started off by wanting to get to the White Cliffs of Dover, and we took a couple of wrong turns because once we got outside of our hotel, we did not have internet, so we couldn't really look up exactly where we were going, but we had an idea of how to get there. And the path that we actually took was to the Castle of Dover, which technically you could still get to the White Cliffs. However, with Little Man, it wasn't really a safe route to go. It was very steep, and you have to basically walk on a well-traveled road. So we decided to turn back around and follow the beach, past the ferry port, and you go under an overpass, and that's finally how you get to the White Cliffs of Dover. So we actually walked quite a bit even before we got to the cliffs, but that was okay with us because we were just exploring, having fun, and just seeing all the different, bed and breakfasts and little shops and all of that. Once we finally reached the trailhead for the White Cliffs of Dover, we got right into it. Little Man, of course, was with us for the day, and he did a great job. He did have to be held quite a bit as far as piggybacked. There was a lot of steep areas, and he was exhausted just from the prior couple of days, so we helped him out, and he had a great time, as you can see. I mean, again, we were just taking in the sights, doing some videoing, some photos. We met a lot of people along the paths. It was a lot busier than I thought it would be. I thought maybe just some of the cruise guests that were already in Dover were going to be exploring, as well as just some locals maybe exercising, but I think because of the holiday weekend that the UK was having, there was a lot more guests, or not a holiday weekend, it was actually their holiday break from school, so a lot of people traveled to Dover to go to the beach and just enjoy the warm weather that we were having this day. Now, once you make it to the main entrance of the White Cliffs of Dover, you actually have to pay to park if you have a car there, but if you're just walking up through the entrance, then there's no fee. Once you get in, there's of course the parking lot, as well as a little cafe. They do sell coffees, teas, pastries, things like that. There's also bathrooms, which we utilized before we continued on our hike on the White Cliffs. It was such a beautiful day. I mean, the weather was perfect. There was a little bit of wind rolling in, and again, we just had a great day enjoying the sights and sounds of Dover. Now, after a little while, we actually came upon a gentleman who was flagging people down, asking if we wanted to be filmed and watch basically a discovery. It was for, I believe it was BBC, and they were doing I don't know if it was a documentary or what it was, but basically they were unearthing one of their artillery guns that was used back in World War II, I believe it was, and it was really interesting because they just told us that they had started this project like a week or two prior to them filming, and they had already uncovered basically the entirety of the weapon. Now, the weapon wasn't there, but they did discover basically where the weapon laid, where they kept the shells and all of that. So it was really, really interesting, and we really enjoyed it. That was probably a 30-minute detour before we continued on, and Little Man got a kick out of wearing the construction helmet and the vest and seeing the excavator do its thing, so he had a great time doing that as well. After that, we finally reached the point that we were looking for, which was the lighthouse at the end of the White Cliffs of Dover. Unfortunately, it was closed the day that we visited. We had no idea that it was going to be closed, because you can actually go in and take pictures and climb to the top. But unfortunately, it was closed, but we got some great pictures in front of it. But what made up for the lighthouse being closed, there was this little area next to the lighthouse that served coffees, teas, hot chocolates, as well as different pastries and jellies. It was fantastic. Me and Michelle grabbed a coffee. Little man had a hot chocolate milk. We used the restrooms, and we were back on our way out of the White Cliffs of Dover. It was a long trek back, and me and Michelle picked up little man pretty much for the entirety of the trek back, because at that point he was absolutely wiped out. I believe we did over 28,000 steps that day, so it was definitely a busy day. Once we got back to the downtown area of Dover, we stopped in the hotel real quick, kind of did a refresh real quick, and then we went back out. We actually ate at another place that our friend Gary at the front desk recommended, and that was Elephant and Hind. It was a great little place, especially if you like different types of beer, microbreweries. They also had a lot of the local beers on tap as well. Great little happy hour spot. They do some music. The food was very inexpensive but good, and everyone's super friendly. So we had a great time here, and that is pretty much how we ended the night. We got back to the hotel pretty much as the sun was setting, had maybe one or two more drinks near the bar and outside the bar there, and that was it for day 2. Now hopefully you're enjoying these vlogs so far. Eventually we'll get onto the cruise ship, but we do have a few more days around and about Dover, as well as our next area, which we'll talk about in the next video. But hopefully we'll see you back right here in the next video, or on a cruise ship one day. Catch you later.